Hi everyone, Alchemist here, and I'm here to share with you guys everything that has to do with ancient history, alchemy, sacred geometry, the occult, and mysteries of human origin. I am obsessed with finding out where do we really come from. And I've been doing a lot of research for years and years and years. I want to share some of that research with you because I came across some really interesting knowledge, and I think you have the right to know it. Today I'm going to talk about Atlantis, and Atlantis is such a fascinating word in itself. The first time I heard Atlantis, the word Atlantis, it's just something in me screamed and said, I know this thing, or I've been there, or I just know it. And I'm sure many of you, especially if you're drawn to see this video, feel the exact same thing when you hear the word Atlantis. Now, Atlantis has been such a controversial subject for hundreds of years, since it was mentioned by Plato. Plato was the first one to mention Atlantis. And he wrote about the destruction of Atlantis. He wrote about the fall of Atlantis, how Atlantis was flooded underneath the waters. And according to Plato, that happened about 12,000 years ago, according to Plato. Now, there's a lot of records that say that this information is wrong, that Plato is a hoax, and he just invented this story, that it doesn't exist, that it doesn't make any sense. But I don't believe so. I think Plato was telling the truth. If anything, this story that Plato is saying, the ancient Greeks got it from Egypt, because most of the knowledge just from ancient Greece comes from ancient Egypt. Pythagoras himself and many other Greek mathematicians and philosophers went to Egypt and studied from Egyptian priests the knowledge of human history and the knowledge of many things about Earth and about life. They studied that from ancient Egypt and they brought it back to Greece. So the story of Atlantis is exactly the same thing. So I believe that Plato was saying the truth, and there's many proofs that what he was saying was reality or was somewhat connected to truth versus lies. 12,000 years ago Atlantis sank. That means that it has existed way before that, because Atlantis, when it reached the epitome of its civilization, it was such an extraordinary place. It was the hub of civilization on Earth. It was even visited by other beings and other alien races from other planets and other galaxies. It was just a beautiful hub. Even geologists and scientists found out through research and studies that about 12,000 years ago, many areas on Earth were flooded by water. They were completely flooded by water, which is insanely coherent with what Plato said, the date that Plato gave us, which is 12,000 years ago. And that flood that sank Atlantis is also the flood that most religions talk about. Even the Hindu religion talk about that flood. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, the flood of Noah, many of you may know about it. Everyone talks about this flood. So, in my opinion, there can be a mention of this flood by so many sources from different places around the world, and even by our modern scientists, and yet we still dismiss it, yet we still say no. So it has happened. But why are we obsessed with Atlantis? Why is there such a mystery around Atlantis? Because the story of Atlantis is here to teach us a lesson so we don't repeat the same cycle over and over and over again. We are at the brink of a civilization that's going to reach time travel and teleportation and colonizing other planets. So we are repeating the cycle. Atlantis was so advanced in its own way. They were more connected to the elements of nature, I would say. Their technologies were very different from our technologies. I'm not saying their technology was better than ours or ours was better than theirs, but they were more able to control the elements of nature. They were able to play with wind and with water and combine the elements of nature to create fantastical things. Versus us, we are using technology in a way to create devices such as computers and cell phones and space rockets and so on and so forth. So it's two different kinds of technologies, but Atlantis is here to remind us that we shouldn't go the same route that Atlantis went. Atlantis went out of control. They were so civilized and so advanced that they reached a level where they started to fall apart. They started to disrespect the laws of nature and experiment with things that shouldn't be experimented with. They started, same thing we're doing today, destroying the planet and messing up everything they find. They didn't have the monetary system that we have in this day and age that we use, but they had something else. But back in Atlantis, it was for the sake of their ego, for the sake of royalty, because Atlantis was ruled by many kings, and these kings were full of ego, and they experimented and they created a lot of different creatures and chimeras, half humans and half creatures. When you hear the word centaur, when you hear mermaids, when you hear the griffins, and so on and so forth, all of these creatures, these mythological creatures, they existed. And in the times of Atlantis, they were real. They were not something that was just like that was just mythical, in my opinion. And they started experimenting with something similar to what we would call nuclear technology, and it didn't go well. They were just out of control, which led to the sinking of the island. It led to the sinking of the island. Now there's different accounts about how the island of Atlantis sank. Some say it's a comet that hit Earth, which generated the flood. There's another account which I believe in, which relates to the story of the Anunnaki, and go to my episode about the Anunnaki and you will find more detail there, where the Anunnaki generated the flood on Earth. Plato mentioned specifically the flood of Atlantis, or the sinking of Atlantis, to remind us, and everything happens for a reason, everything has a meaning, to remind us in this day and age. And why are we just so obsessed with Atlantis, is to remind us that if we continue this route, how we are right now, we are probably going to get the same fate. We're probably going to destroy ourselves. We're going to destroy the planet. Well, I do believe that the planet is going to be fine with or without us, because the planet is self-sufficient. But we might destroy the human race. We might destroy life on Earth for beings like us, and animals and plants and forests and oceans. So we just have to be very careful where we are heading, where we are going. Unfortunately, I see a huge drive towards technological advancement to the detriment of society, social life, and nature. And these huge corporations, they just don't care. They don't care about anything. All they care about is profit, money, ego, control. That's the story of Atlantis. Atlantis had a similar thing going on with the rulers that ruled Atlantis. So that's the story of Atlantis. It's not to be really proud that we're Atlanteans. And when I say that, I believe that I had an incarnation there, or I might have visited Atlantis when it existed. Again, this information is esoteric in nature, so you either believe it, if you feel it, you're gonna believe it. So it's all about synchronicity, it's all about how you feel, it's all about clairvoyance, claircognizance. If you know it, you know it. So why is it called Atlantis? Atlantis, according to Plato, was located outside the area of between, I would say, Spain and Morocco. There's like a little area, it's like a doorway to the Atlantic Ocean. That's where you go from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea. According to Plato, it existed somewhere there down south. So which means it was located near the Atlantic Ocean, not the Mediterranean. It was located near the Atlantic Ocean. And hence why it's called Atlantis, the Atlantic Ocean. Over the years, there has been a lot of research and excavations trying to find where Atlantis is located, and no one has found the land. Many claim that Atlantis is in Antarctica. It's in the southern Arctic continent, and there's a lot of things going on there nowadays. A lot of celebrities, a lot of like government officials from the US go in there. There's some weird things going on with Antarctica. Many say Atlantis is actually there, is located there. I don't believe that. I think it was around the Atlantic Ocean. And up till recently, there has been a discovery about a possible location for Atlantis. And hear me out, because this is fascinating. This discovery says that Atlantis existed in this area called the Eye of the Desert, or the Eye of the Sahara, in southern Mauritania. If you go to the map, as I'm going to show you here, you can see here this shape that is seen from satellite, from the top. You can see here this formation that is taken from satellite. You can even find it on Google Earth if you go and check. And the formation looks so similar to the description of Plato. Even the dimensions that Plato mentioned are identical to the dimensions of this formation, which is quite fascinating, because as I saw this and I found out that there's a possibility that this is Atlantis, it resonated with me right away. Whereas before, every place I would research, and I see that the scientist says maybe Atlantis is here, maybe it's there. Sometimes they say it's in the Caribbean, sometimes it's in Antarctica, sometimes they say it's in the Pacific Ocean, some people say it's near Hawaii, and nothing resonated. But when I saw this, and it is, as they say here, it's hidden in plain sight, and it is hidden in plain sight because it's in the desert right there in front of everyone. And usually things are hidden in plain sight. The things that we're looking for, they're hidden in plain sight. As soon as I saw it, it resonated with me. I'm like, this is it. This is gotta be it. And this is huge. I really hope there's gonna be more scientists that are gonna go down there and excavate and just research if there's any artifacts, or if there's anything there that can prove that this is the city or the lost city of Atlantis. I myself, I'm a traveler, I'm a big traveler, and I love going to ancient sites, and I will definitely visit there one day, and I will share with you the footage for sure. I'm not sure how easy it is to access that area, but it's definitely on my bucket list. But the fascinating part about it is that it fits the description of Plato, because back then in ancient Greece, they didn't know that, they thought that underneath North Africa, like south of North Africa, they thought there was nothing. They didn't think there was anything there. So they weren't aware of the existence of the African continent. And actually most of the Sahara Desert was also flooded by water. It was apparently, according to geologists, there was times where when the Sahara Desert was lush, it was green, it was beautiful, it has rivers, it has water, it had plants. Same as the ancient Egypt. Egypt was never a desert. And during the ancient Egyptian times, Egypt was beautiful. It was green, it had trees, you know. So the Sahara Desert as we know it in this day and age is not what it looked like thousands of years ago, okay? So that proves to me that that area is possibly where Atlantis existed, because as per Plato's description, it was like the city was formed around these like circles with water in between. If you look at this formation in the desert, it looks very, very similar. Maybe there was water there in the Sahara Desert at that point. Those circles is where Atlantis existed, and back then it was lush, it was beautiful, and you know, it's just a lot of dots seems to connect. I'm not sure about you guys, but let me know in the comment section below, what do you think? Do you think this is Atlantis? Do you think Atlantis was here? Because it doesn't make any sense to me that such a huge area as per Plato's description, existed and then we can't find it anywhere. This discovery, if proved true, might change everything about our ancient history, everything that the religion says, everything that the religions of the earth have been preaching. It will hopefully help us become more aware of the idea that we are just repeating the cycle and that we have to be very careful how we are handling our advancement and our technologies. And we have to learn from our ancestors and what happened to them. If we don't learn from our mistakes, how do we improve? How do we move on? Another proof that the ancient civilization of Atlantis existed is this beautiful site called Göbekli Tepe, and it exists in Turkey. I was this close from visiting it this year because I was in Turkey and I didn't have the chance, but I am definitely going in 2021 to Göbekli Tepe. Is the ancient site that exists on Earth, archaeologically speaking. All archaeologists and scientists agree that it dates back to 10,000 years ago. The site is massive, it's huge, as you can see in these pictures that I found online. It's massive, it's huge. You can see these columns, you can see these sculptures. They had apparently agriculture. They were civilized. They weren't hairy barbarians. And I'm talking about 10,000 years ago, which actually, again, is coherent to the date of the flood. So maybe Göbekli Tepe, or Göbekli Tepe, I hope I'm saying it right, maybe also flooded the same time as Atlantis, because the flood happened all around Earth. And this site in Turkey, and I highly encourage many of you to visit it if you can, is the proof that human beings are much more ancient than what science and archaeology have been telling us for years and years and years. We are much more ancient and advanced. We're not just hairy barbarians that came out of nowhere, as what most history is trying to tell us. Even the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Sphinx, they date back to more than 10,000 years ago, and there's many scientists that agree on that. Not all scientists agree on it, but only some. But do your own research, and you're gonna find out crazy, mysterious things about our history, about the human origin. Unfortunately, we only have been told that everything started 6,000 years ago, but how can you explain Göbekli Tepe that were at the epitome of their civilization already at 10,000 years ago? That means they have existed way longer before that. Again, all of this tie into the story of the Anunnaki and the people who might have created us, genetically speaking. But I just wanted to share these facts with you about Atlantis, that we might be very, very, very close to discovering where Atlantis was. And this is gonna be a breakthrough for our history, for our development, for human beings as a race. And there's so much we can learn if we can prove that that's actually Atlantis. Alright guys, anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section. This stuff excites me. I love ancient history. Esoteric history too, not just stuff that's told by historians, because sometimes history is written by the people who write history, so it doesn't mean that they're always saying the truth. So you have to do your research and read different sources and dig into the spiritual, the esoteric, the science, and put everything together and get your own idea and your own philosophy about it. Alright guys, thank you so much. I hope you find this helpful, and I'll see you in the next episode.